going on, guys? Welcome to another Beyond Politics. This is an in-depth conversation where we bring our perspective to relevant political topics of the day. I'm your host, Jared, and with me as always is Seth. Seth, how you doing today, man?
Another interesting debate.
Final one.
A lot happened. I mean, I think a lot happened. I think it was probably the best debate of the three, or the most enlightening. But I'm excited to get into it. I mean, I don't want to get too much into the topics, but I think it was good. I think there's a lot to talk about. I think there's a lot that happened in the debate, and so
Definitely.
ready for this show.
Definitely, man. And now we don't have to deal with another presidential debate for another 4 years.
Yeah,
nice. All right. Moving right in.
Kind of fun, man. You're just like looking forward to what you could be just like.
Looking forward to what crazy stuff is going to happen.
Right.
All right. So the first topic in the debate. First of all, Christopher Wallace, I think, was the moderator. I think he did a really good job. I think his questions were fair, balanced. He kind of hit both candidates with stuff they've been criticized on. So I thought he did a pretty good job. Also, I really liked his first question. So his first question, he brings up the Supreme Court, and he specifically asks, "Do you think it's important that Supreme Court justices nominated interpret the Constitution the way that it was written by the founders, or do they believe that it's kind of more of a living," I don't know the exact wording that he said, but more of a living, breathing document that's kind of open to interpretation?
Right. And it's funny that this feels like it's exactly what your question would have been for the candidates, like what they think of government.
Yeah, no, exactly. That's why, he's a genius. He would have asked the question I was going to ask. So.
Well, he's clearly watching our show.
Yeah, clearly.
Clearly. He's one of these, man.
But yeah, man, so he directs this at Clinton first, and immediately Clinton starts talking about LGBTQ.
Just sidesteps
whatever.
It so
yeah,
hard.
Exactly. Women's rights, which, women should have equal rights, all that. That's not even up for debate. Nobody says that women shouldn't have rights that men have. It's just, it's absurd.
Like when was the last time it was not illegal? It's just.
I know.
It's such a ridiculous argument.
It is completely ridiculous. And then she doesn't mention the Constitution at all in her answer. She doesn't even say the words the Constitution. She completely ignores his question about it. And she says that justices should be
as any good politician does, just ignore the question.
Exactly. Yeah. And then so what she said, which I thought was very telling of her view on what the Supreme Court is supposed to do, she thinks that the Supreme Court is supposed to represent the people. Now, that sounds great, right? Like, the Supreme Court should represent the people. That sounds nice. Yeah, exactly. However, the purpose of the Supreme Court is not to represent the people. It's to represent and uphold the law.
The law,
And the difference between the United States, so we've talked about this before, is that it is a republic and not a democracy. So it's not ruled by the majority vote of the people. There is law that has to be upheld.
Yeah, there's not like a mob mentality where if you can get enough people to it's not how that works. It's the law, and the Supreme Court is to address the Constitution and our rights, and then to bring up a sentencing that is in line with what we have written down as the foundation of our country. But the uneducated voter and people here for the people, and you're like, oh, I like that. Like, that sounds good to me, But
definitely. You hear that and it sounds nice, but it's not what it's meant to be. It's not what they're supposed to do.
Yeah.
So that was Clinton answers. Trump answered it much better, in my opinion.
I think he killed it, man.
Yeah, he started off strong on the Second Amendment. Me and Seth are both strong Second Amendment supporters, as we are with all of the amendments. The first
things that have been the foundation. They're kind of important.
Yeah, no, definitely. And so he answered it by saying he wants to appoint Supreme Court justices that will uphold the Second Amendment and uphold all the amendments. And then the main thing that he said that I thought was really good is that he said that the Constitution needs to be interpreted the way that it was written by the founders.
Yes.
And I think that's so key, because you have people who will openly say that the Constitution is no longer relevant. It's open
Yeah.
for interpretation. It's outdated.
archaic.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So
I
I
mean,
thought,
I think we both agree that it was written by a group of very wise men and men that were. I think we can, like. I think it's disingenuous to think that they wouldn't think ahead when they were writing this. Like, they didn't write it being like, "This is what we want the country to be right now." They wrote it as in, "This is what we want this country to become, to always be." And so when they wrote about, I mean, the Second Amendment's easy to talk about because when they wrote about the guns, they didn't just think about muskets. Like, they understood that there would be technological advancements, and then freedom of speech. Like, they didn't restrict it to talking. Like, they just said freedom of speech, and so like,
yeah,
whatever
freedom
it
of
becomes.
speech, freedom of religion, freedom of the press, like all of that.
Due process, like all of these things, like they kept it pretty general, and they kept it to where it can be applied to ongoing evolutions of the technology and society. You know, like, I don't think it's a piece that really goes out of date at this point.
No, definitely not. I don't think it does. I mean, it was so ahead of its time when it was written. And I think it applies just as much today as it does then. I think obviously there were things that were added to it, but however, the core foundation, the staples of what it is, still remains and has stood the test of time.
For sure.
So that's definitely telling. So I thought he did well on that. From the Supreme Court, they kind of moved right into the Second Amendment, which was
I've been waiting for all of these debates.
Yeah, I know.
mean,
they finally kind of brought it up in some
I was really
detail.
hoping they'd bring it up this debate because they touched on it like ever so slightly in the first debate with the no-fly list, which I was not impressed with, as we've talked about. Not a fan. But now they went full on and they attacked Clinton with the fact that she said that that she thought that the Second Amendment, they got it wrong and it wasn't a constitutional right.
Yeah, when the Supreme Court voted on the Heller case.
Yeah.
And well, apparently I didn't know this, but apparently in the Heller case it was all about not allowing toddlers.
Yeah.
Allowing toddlers to carry guns, which of course Hillary Clinton is opposed to.
Yes. As she should be. Such a great person.
Yes. Yeah.
Like, and just, yeah.
Her argument, the argument that she brought up is so completely ridiculous and invalid in this scenario. It's almost not even worth trying to argue or justify. Like, it doesn't even make sense.
Yeah, but I think we should still talk about it. Yeah, I mean, we're pro Second Amendment, as we discussed earlier. Like, we understand, and we think that we understand that the founding fathers wrote this to be future proof. And I mean, she always uses common sense gun control, and I think that I would argue that we have it now. The fact is,
gun show loopholes, man. Online loopholes.
Okay, exactly. Let's break some of these things down that she talks about. The gun show loophole doesn't exist. You cannot go to a gun show and buy a gun without a background check. It just doesn't happen. I would urge you to go and do it. Go to a gun show and buy a gun without a background check. Come back. You'd be the first one. The online loophole, not exactly sure what that is.
Yeah, so what she's referring to is she thinks that when you buy a firearm online, that you don't have to go to...
Amazon ships it to your house.
Exactly, you don't have to go through a background check.
Yeah,
Which,
like
if you're uninformed, that can be true. I can see how people would believe that, because that's true. You can purchase the weapon, but then it is then sent to a licensed firearms dealer which then you have to go to, and that is when you do the background check.
Exactly.
So it's not like you can just buy an AR-15 off freaking eBay and then it
nice
show
as
up
that
at your
would be.
doorstep. Yeah, right?
Exactly. And a lot of places, like Facebook, I know for a fact, like, they ban topics and sales for guns. Like, you cannot sell a gun on eBay. Like, even you can't.
Yeah.
Like,
as a private transaction from seller to seller.
Exactly. And so these online loopholes, they've been taken care of by the companies themselves. And so I just think she's being really manipulative by throwing out all these terms. And then, like, assault weapons. Like, assault weapons don't exist. They're not a thing. There's assault rifles, and those are fully automatic rifles, which are they're not illegal, but they're very hard to get. You need additional tax stamps, you need additional time, and they cost a boatload of money.
Also additional money because they're around 20 grand.
Exactly, and then the amount of ammo you're going to go through. I mean, it's yeah, and so I get so frustrated when she throws out all these terms that to the normal person sound intimidating. Assault weapon, like that sounds horrible, and then especially when you look at the numbers and that rifle deaths of people with like gun deaths with rifles is such a small amount. Like in 2014, it was literally 248 deaths from according to the FBI.
Yeah. I mean,
Like,
yeah, no, that's insane. Out of 320 million people,
exactly,
200
and
something die by a rifle.
handguns are over 5,000.
Yeah.
But there's no assault handgun ban. You know, like it just
Well, they don't want to be too radical, man.
it just doesn't make sense. And then she comes out and says that she's not trying to take our guns.
Yeah, no, and this is totally false. I mean, she has blatantly said, she and President Obama have said that they favor how Australia, there we go, nailed it. How Australia did their
Kind of the same
mandatory buyback program. So what Australia did is they had a mandatory buyback program where if you have a gun, the government will then purchase it back from you, but it was mandatory. So basically they're just confiscating your weapons, but they're paying you some money for it. And they're in favor of that.
Yeah, like that's fine maybe there, but I mean, we have a constitutional right to a gun, and we do not have a constitutional right to a gun to hunt. That's not why we were given the right. We were given a right for a weapon, for a gun, for a militia, a well-regulated militia, to keep the government in check. And guess who doesn't like that? The government. They don't like the idea of their population being able to keep them in check, because they want to be absolute power. Like that, just think about it. And so what's the easiest way to do that is to disarm the civilians. And
exactly. And I mean, people might think that sounds crazy. And I mean, right now with our current government system, I can't see any kind of a rebellion happening, within recent years or future years. But if you go back and you look at history, the first step of any dictatorship forming is to disarm the people.
Exactly.
So I mean, you can say it's a ridiculous
steps.
argument and you can laugh about it, but if you actually go back and you look at history and you become knowledgeable on the subject, that's what happens. That's the first step. So that's why it's so important to keep it. Yeah, exactly. Why give away rights for free when you don't have to?
Exactly.
You know
and
what I mean?
If we start giving away our Second Amendment rights, like where does it stop with other rights that they're going to try to slowly, whittle down? Like,
yeah,
it's a bad precedent. Not a fan. And
definitely.
Honestly, I mean, I don't like Trump. I don't like Hillary. I don't know if I'm going to vote for Trump, but this was a very big plus for me in Trump's book, because I think Trump nailed it on the question. I mean, he talked about how the NRA supported him and how Hillary tried to make the NRA supporting him a negative, and he was like, I am very proud of the NRA supporting me.
Yeah, that was a high point for him.
Exactly. And I was like, that's awesome. And I mean, if the country is going to go in the hole, which with both candidates, I think there's you can easily understand. Exactly. I'd rather go with the one that leaves me with my guns at the end of the day.
Yeah, the lesser of two evils argument. But I mean, when you have this kind of stuff going on, Hillary's throwing out these numbers that, there's 30,000 gun deaths a year in America, which, yeah, that's true. But if you break it down, 22,000 of them are suicides.
Yep.
So, I mean, yeah, suicides are awful. That's terrible. However, that's not violent-related gun deaths.
Right. And you could argue that those people would find another way to kill themselves. And that's not really the gun problem. That's a mental problem. Like,
yeah, that's a health issue.
Yeah.
And then so 22,000 of them are suicides. About 11,000 of them are homicides. And of those 11,000 of them, 9,000 of those are gang-related. So that's when
illegal guns.
Exactly. So that's when Trump kind of brought up the whole Chicago. You look at Detroit. You look at New York. All of these cities that have very strict gun control restriction. However, you have the highest crime rate. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and you can just look at it and see that it doesn't work. Like you're doing is you're disarming the normal citizen, the person that could use that to defend themselves. You're not getting the guns out of the bad people.
Yeah, no, I mean it's completely ridiculous. And then if you break that stat down even more, so 2,000% or 2,000 deaths of homicides are non-gang related. So if you're not a part of a gang, that leaves you a 0.00625% chance of being murdered in a homicide if you're not in a gang in the United States. So I mean, these numbers are it's so minuscule.
And honestly, you probably have a better chance of defending yourself if you had a gun. So
exactly. I think the argument is crazy.
Yeah, and the number is scary, and she throws it out there, and then people are immediately latch onto it. But when you break it down, like 22,000 of them are suicides. That's over half.
Yeah,
that's way over half.
yeah.
It's being disingenuous to say that this number is equating that to gun deaths when you're just like, that's not really what you're representing with that number.
Yeah, exactly. And even if you look at 11,000 homicides, you're still in the tenths of a percent era.
Exactly.
So I mean,
we have over 300 million people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you have, almost 280 million guns for that. So I think that's actually pretty remarkable that it is that low. Like, obviously, one death is too many. However, there is violence. People are violent. That's human nature. So I think with all things considering.
Yeah, and I also really did not like how she went at it and said the tradition of owning a gun. She said that in the debate, and so it really was like her trying to be like, well, it's tradition, so we'll let you have your tradition, but you don't really need it. You're just doing
it. Kind of
it made it
sound the right.
Yeah, and I'm just like, what? I'm like, no, not a fan.
Yeah.
Not a fan. Let's move on.
Not a fan. Yeah, we'll have to do another segment about this.
Yeah, talk for hours.
So the next thing they brought up which is abortion, which is a really controversial thing going on. It has been for a while. Man. Yeah, definitely. So both of them kind of touched on how they felt about Roe v. Wade, which is the Supreme Court decision to allow a woman to have the right to either have an abortion or not. So obviously Trump said that he's pro-life. He said that he would appoint Supreme Court justices who are also pro-life. Hillary said that she would appoint Supreme Court justices that are pro-choice. No surprise there from either candidate. However, there was a quote from Hillary that just kind of bugs me. When she said that no woman should be forced to have a child. I don't think that, the vast majority of women are fortunate enough to have the choice to have a child. So when you're looking at this from an abortion standpoint, around 99% of women who have an abortion have the choice to have sex and then want to go get the abortion afterwards.
So to just make taking responsibility, and it is bad if you are forced, like if you were raped or something like that.
Yeah,
like,
definitely,
that makes
it's terrible.
Sense. But to piggyback off that and say that to classify all abortions as that is also disingenuous, and you're manipulating people what they think by saying that most women get abortions and because they're being forced to have a child, when in reality it's a very, very less than 1% of women being forced to
of women are raped and then therefore have an abortion because of it. You know what I mean? The vast majority are able to have a choice in the matter. So anyways, moving on. Immigration was another big topic. I thought this question by
build a wall.
Build a wall, keep them out. This question though was great. He brought up the WikiLeaks to Hillary. She was not expecting this at all. If you look at her face, man,
very surprised.
She was very surprised. Which goes to show you, man, if you don't have a biased mainstream media that caters to these people, like when you ask them actual questions, they're just like, "Wait, what did you ask me?" Like you could tell. But anyways, he was talking about the WikiLeaks. And the quote in the WikiLeaks that Hillary said is, she said that my dream is a hemispheric common market with open trade and open borders. So basically, and then she goes on to talk about energy and stuff like that. but like these WikiLeaks, every single day there's another dump of WikiLeaks, and there's more stuff going out. Whether it's about Hillary running guns to ISIS, there's speculation about that. There's speculation about all of these paid speeches that
this
she's
came
doing
from a
to
paid
foreign
speech.
donors. Yeah, no,
This came from a speech that she wouldn't release the transcript for, and so
okay, yeah,
that raises red flags to me. I mean, she always calls out Trump not giving out his
tax
return.
Yeah,
And I'm like, well, you won't give out your speeches where you clearly talk the opposite of what you're campaigning for.
yeah.
Because she constantly said in the debate that she doesn't want open borders, when in reality we can look at the speech and say you literally said you look like you envision a world with open borders.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I mean, it's totally contradictory of what she says. And I mean, these WikiLeaks, these email scandals are really, it's bad. Like, I mean, people think Watergate and everything like that is bad with Nixon. I mean, that's
If
nothing
this had happened
compared.
back then, it'd be worse.
Oh, it'd be, yeah, I mean, it would be. The scrutiny that he got was far worse than anything that Hillary Clinton has got. And I think that Hillary Clinton's basically crimes are worse than Nixon's.
Yeah.
But it's not really covered. It's not really talked about. So it was refreshing. It was nice to have, a mainstream media outlet actually call her out on this.
Yes, I was very surprised. With the
Yeah,
question.
no, I had my mouth open for probably like 3 seconds
Yeah,
after
I
he
was
asked
like,
that question. I was
what?
like, what?
Yeah.
I can't believe it. So I thought that was interesting. But then to kind of get in the nitty gritty of it, all of Clinton's arguments with immigration were all emotion based, not law and order based, which is kind of more the perspective of where Trump is coming at it. So when Clinton would talk, she would talk about, I don't want to split up families. I just have this image of this 4-year-old child asking if her parents are going to get deported. And this plays on people's psyche somehow. I don't understand. I mean, I guess it plays with the people's emotions saying, yeah, we shouldn't split up families and all this kind of stuff. I'm saying, look, you're not splitting up the family. If this family is going to get aborted, it's not like their 4-year-old is going to be left in America and their parents are going to go back to wherever they came from.
Deported.
No, deported. Yeah. What did I say?
Aborted.
So
good.
Well, no, they're
yeah.
not getting aborted yet. But anyway, they're not going to get deported with this child staying in America. The whole family will go back to wherever, their home country is, whatever country they're a citizen of.
Yeah, and I honestly don't get this argument. Like, completely being legit. If you're here illegally, get out. I mean, I don't understand. Like, you're not supposed to be here. You obviously broke the law coming here. Why should we give you a fast track to citizenship? You mean what you're doing is you're, like Trump said, and I not necessarily love aligning myself with things that Trump says, but he laid out that these people, it takes years to get a valid citizenship, and you're basically spitting in the face of the people that are taking the time to go through it the correct way
And spent the money.
Yeah. So it's.
I mean, I think there's definitely work that can be done with making it, easier to enter this country legally. However, if you look at it, America has taken in more immigrants than any other nation in the history of the world.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's not like we're not. When people make the argument that America, isn't being friendly to immigrants or not letting people in, I mean, it's just totally ridiculous and it's not factual. So it's crazy to me that people would think that America would, be heartless or ruthless to deport people who are here illegally when we let in more people into our country legally than any other country does.
Yeah.
Or has in history. So, I mean, it's a bogus argument. It's completely ridiculous. Hillary Clinton is clearly playing to people's emotions, and she's pandering, to people in that regard. And I think it's kind of disgraceful, honestly.
Yeah,
Gosh.
All right, let's move on to the economy.
Yeah, no, this is interesting. So, Trump, same spiel, lower taxes, lower regulation. One thing that he did, which I thought was good, was he touched on the GDP. We got less than 1%.
So
I think it's a little bit above 1% right now. But anyways, it's just record low GDP for a long period of time. So, the United States has had recessions and stuff like that before. We haven't had one quite as bad as 2008, except for the Great Depression. However, we've always recovered from these recessions. We've been able to have, a GDP growth of at least, 2-3%. And
we recover when the freaking government doesn't bail out all of the companies that went under.
Yeah, no, exactly. I mean, it's healthy for, it's the flow of an economy to have a recession every 4 to 6 years. And right now, our economy is actually due for a recession. However, we have no inflation right now. You have interest rates that are, we essentially have no interest rates. So if there were to be a recession, we wouldn't have any inflation as a buffer to then lower these interest rates. Anyways, right now the economy is pretty much terrible. We have no growth going on in the economy. So what Donald Trump is saying, I think could resonate with some people, because obviously most people agree that Hillary Clinton would be 4 more years of kind of what we've had. Yeah. She's very similar to Obama. She defends Obama all the time. So whether you like that or not, if you think the country's going in a great direction right now, or if you think the economy's going in a great direction, then that's fine. Go ahead and vote for Hillary. I personally don't think it's moving in the right direction. I don't think it's really moving in any direction at all. So I think this is kind of a strong suit for Trump. I thought he did fairly well here. But he didn't go into really any policy or anything like that, because I don't think he's capable of it.
Exactly. Neither one of them, they both talked a good talk, but neither one of them laid out what they wanted to do. They both were like, we're going to bring back the middle class and we're going to lower taxes, or Hillary wouldn't say she was going to raise taxes, but you can't have all this government funding without raising taxes.
Well, except on the wealthiest. The wealthy need to pay their fair share.
Oh, there you go.
Even though the wealthy already pay, if you're in the $225,000 income, you're paying a 39% tax bracket, which is just absolutely insane.
But I mean, apparently there are deductions because Trump hasn't paid any taxes. I don't know. Both of them, neither one of them laid out their exact policies, and I kind of didn't like that. I was like, you keep saying, "Oh, I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this." Well, let me see what you're going to do. Like, let me see your exact plans and what you're going to do. They wouldn't do that. They would just say, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this. And, I mean, that's nice and all, but let's see your actual plan.
Yeah, I mean, Trump briefly kind of talked about lowering taxes and lowering regulations, which he thought would bring back production and companies back in the United States, because when you have a lower taxes on businesses, obviously that incentivizes them to come back. However, I mean, that's about the extent to the depth that he went in explaining it. And then Hillary Clinton basically just ended up talking about the wage gap and raising a minimum wage, and also free college for anyone who makes under $125,000 a year.
But we're not going to raise taxes.
No, and also, exactly. Just won't add a penny to the national dime, or won't add a penny to the national debt.
Yeah,
but free college.
Yeah, exactly.
Gosh, and it makes you I mean, it's pretty obvious why people would support her. I mean, when you have a candidate who's giving you free crap all the time, you're like, yeah no, that sounds kind of nice. You know what I mean? If you don't know, much about, our country.
Well, everyone likes free stuff. So, I mean, especially the way the system's been run for so long, a lot of people are programmed to live off
be dependent on the government.
Exactly. And that's kind of a big part of the Democratic platform, is to have people depend on the government, because then they won't want it to be shrunk. They can keep growing it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So closing up here, we put in biggest lies from each candidate, because there's so many of them.
There was a lot of them.
There's a lot of them, but we've come to be accustomed to this. So for Trump, I believe the biggest lie, and everyone knows it, is he likes to say that no one has more respect for women than he does.
Solid. Yeah,
it's crazy. It's crazy.
The fact that he can come out and say that, it's pretty impressive.
Well, that he thinks people will believe him. I don't know a single person who believes it. I mean, you can still support Trump even after everything he's been through.
Yeah.
If you want to align with the lesser of two evils, but to support that is crazy to me.
Yeah. A little bit.
And then, you have Hillary Clinton saying that she's not going to add one penny to the national debt when she wants to give away all this free stuff to people all the time.
Yep. Money grows on trees. countries.
Apparently it does.
Yeah.
Or it just gets printed out of a printing press. So closing. What do you think happened? Who do you think won, and what do you think it means for the election?
I really think Trump came out very strong. I think towards the middle and end of the debate, it kind of became stagnant for both of them.
Yeah.
I thought the moderator was very good. I think he was the best one by far.
Yeah, I thought he did good.
He was fair. He called both of them on their time. He went after WikiLeaks, which I was still I'm blown away that they brought that into the debate. I was very happy they talked about the Second Amendment because, like I said earlier, that's a big sticking point for me.
Yeah.
I think it was good for Trump. There was a couple times where it was very odd the way Hillary was going because it wasn't traditional Hillary. A couple times she
would interject and she kind of seemed
level.
she seemed disgruntled a little bit sometimes.
So I'd be curious to see if it was just being thrown off by a couple of the questions or if she's just getting drained from this election. Like if there was a fourth debate, would she be even worse?
Yeah, because she definitely performed the strongest in the first, and then I think it kind of went down a little bit. I think, there you go, pneumonia. Well, it was just allergies before that, and then it turned into pneumonia.
Well, it wasn't. Yeah, exactly.
So yeah, no, I agree. I think the first part of it, when they were talking about the Second Amendment in the Supreme Court, was definitely strong for Donald Trump.
Awesome.
I think he appealed to a lot of people there. Yeah, that was solid. That was good, Trump. He behaved well there.
Good boy.
Yeah, good Trump. And then, obviously you had some stuff where Trump felt like he needed to defend himself a lot. But that we've come to grow accustomed to that. As far as what it means for the election cycle, we'll see. I don't know. If you look at the polls, if you believe the polls at all, then you kind of already know that he doesn't really have much of a chance right now. However, if you kind of look at past polls with Brexit and stuff like that, it has been off. It has not been off near this amount, but it has been off. So, if you're a Trump supporter, there's still hope. If you're a Hillary Clinton supporter, don't get too comfy. I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah.
We'll see what happens. But yeah, man, I think anything else you wanted to cover in this one?
Nope, another good debate. These are always exciting. I'm kind of sad this is the last one we're going to see for a while. It's I wouldn't say fun, but it's nice to just have them square off against each other because you see them so often just going at each other isolated like Trump.
Yeah, when one can't defend the other.
Exactly. So it's cool. It does sometimes break down to one of them being snide under marks, but for the most part, I think it was good.
Yeah, definitely, man. Agreed. So as always, guys, this has been Beyond Politics. Thanks for listening. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. Be sure and hit that subscribe button. Check out the Peanut Gallery podcast that we upload every Monday, where we give our unprofessional and insignificant opinions on the most important and insignificant topics of the day. Remember, this is Beyond Just Politics. Tell us who you plan to vote for and why. Comment below. Let us know who you think won the debate. Thanks for tuning in, guys. We'll see you next time.